The lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, look, I mean, mentioning how, you know, people like it when you tell your personal experiences on the field and people remember it and stuff. You know, I want to cover some of those things because I guess as a fan, I have a lot of those as well. And what I want to do is, I guess, try to cover your careers simultaneously. So to begin with, when were you guys drafted? So into the NBL, and then for yourself into the AFL?
Oh, for me, I came straight out of the Australian Institute of Sport when I was 18 and came back, signed up with Adelaide. So that was in 1992, which was the first year of what was then the Clipsal Powerhouse and now Titanium Arena, which the team's just moved from there, obviously, into the entertainment centre. So 92 was my first year, and for me, it was always a goal to play for the 36ers. I'd grown up watching them and enjoyed going to the games, so it was kind of a dream come true.
Yeah, so you were born and bred in South Australia.
Yeah.
And at some point, with the transition of the stadiums, wasn't one of the stadiums named after yourself?
The court. It was the only way they could get rid of me, really. They came to me right at the end of my career and said, look, we've got to get rid of you. How can we do it? No, not really. They just, I guess, I was there so long, they were like, sheepers, we should honour him in some way. And at the time, the only other court that I knew of that was kind of named after someone was the Boston Celtics, where they named it after Red Auerbach. And so to have it done here was a huge honour. And they've kind of carried that over, moving from Titanium to the Entertainment Centre. They still call it the Brett Maher Court there and have my big signature on it somewhere.
Yeah, word. And then so you're born and bred in SA, but you are originally from Darwin. And I think you came down with your family or your father and...
No, my dad just dropped me off, basically.
Yeah.
Just kicked me out of the car. And, pretty much. No, well, yeah, I came down in 94. So I came down here and I boarded with a family, Port Adelaide family, and playing in the SANFL for the Magpies. And yeah, basically that was it. I came down, my dad dropped me off and he drove off, and I spent about 4 months playing for the Magpies, played in a premiership in the SANFL with them, and then got drafted initially to the Fremantle as a pre-concession pick at the end of 95. Because they could have two players that they could pick up from South Australia. One was me and the other one was Darryl Wakelin. And then they traded Darryl Wakelin to St Kilda and traded me to the Crows.
It's a good decision, wasn't it?
Very good decision. Best decision in my football career.
Now, when you've, because I interviewed an artist called Baker Boy, and one of the things that we discussed is when he's transitioned from, I can't remember exactly which part of Australia he came from.
He's a Yolngu man, I think, yeah.
There you go.
He's from Adelaide, yeah.
And we discussed how when he was younger, he used to like hunt from the land. Now, for yourself, was it the same scenario? You guys used to hunt from the land. So how was that experience, and how was that transition going from living with that sort of cultural background to, I guess, just getting, placed in city, lifestyle, and the changes in that, like adapting?
Very tough.
Yeah.
That's probably, for me, that cultural shift was probably the hardest thing to adapt to. And I've had these conversations a lot. But yeah, like going from that where we're used to, fishing, hunting, and, like your freezer, we have freezer full of food that we catch. And that's just part of it, where you come here and living in the territory, there's a big Asian influence as well. So like we grew up in a very multicultural place, and there's a big Malay flavour there too. So we, lots of times we eat lots of curries and stews with rice and stuff, and it's very different. And that's just what we grew up with and utilising what we used to hunt. Come down here, and the shift in food was probably the most interesting one for me, because I've never seen a schnitzel, I've never seen a mashed potato. I never grew up on this sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden I got piles of it, and I'm like, man, soups, eating pumpkin soup. I'm like, we don't eat soup in Darwin unless it's cold.
Yeah,
But
wow.
no one eats cold soup. But it just was one of those things that it was just that was the culture shock of different foods, and it was it took a little while to get used to.
And then when you talk about, the old man dropping you off, and you say it with, a bit of tongue in cheek, but I imagine that would have also contributed to the difficulty in adapting. How did you find that aspect of it as well?
It was tough. Obviously, I was 17 at the time, move away from home. Basically, it was like, here's an opportunity, have a crack at it, make something for yourself. That was it. Like, I had to get a job. I was boarding at a place that I had to pay rent. Then play footy, try and play footy and make something of it. So it was really tough to, and the weather. It was heading into winter, and when you grow up in Darwin,
Don't have a winter.
we don't even.
You have a wet season, but you don't have a winter.
I don't even own a jacket. So, there's all those things that you have to deal with, and it's like, wow, it's cold. And I remember the footy club, they were great, but he's like, we'll get you a job. And they got me a job in the wool sheds down at Port Adelaide, and I'd never seen bloody sheep, let alone wool. And here I was packing bays of wool into this machine, freezing cold shed, and that didn't last too long.
Yeah,
I reckon it lasted about a week. It's that sort of tough bit of, it was a little bit of tough love, like, here's an opportunity, and then you got to go from doing that, try and play footy, go training, and footy's played very different in South Australia than it was in the Territory. So having to learn all of that and, sort of work your way through it is a bit of a, but I had really great support, like Port Adelaide were great. The family I lived with were amazing, became like my second family away from home, and I was able to adapt. There was a couple of little trips back and forth home for homesickness, until my mum and dad gave me a kick up the arse and sent me back. So,
yeah, wow. So it sounds like you got a bit of that tough love.
Yeah.
Sort
Well,
of.
I had to. It was either that or, I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So they sort of, in the end, they sort of pushed me in that direction.
The lesson. 2-7. Oh, yeah.